Some movies you loved as a kid hit different when you go back to them, and this is one of those movies. Before we get into today's movie, this is part of my 25-day Christmas movie marathon where I'll be dropping a new review every single day this month. And today's movie is Alvin and the Chipmunks. And this movie was peak cinema when I was 7. Alvin and the Chipmunks follows 3 talking chipmunks who end up living with Dave, a struggling songwriter. And what do you know? They can sing, they can harmonize, and they accidentally become famous pop stars. The movie is basically about their rise to fame, the chaos they bring into Dave's life, and the bond they form along the way. It's a simple premise, it's lighthearted, it's designed to be fun for kids, and honestly that's exactly what it is whenever I first watched it, but rewatching it now it hits a lot different. This movie doesn't waste time getting into the main story. Dave finds the chipmunks, they start performing, and suddenly they're everywhere. The rise to fame happens fast and the movie uses momentum to keep things moving, but what makes it work, at least for kids and me when I was younger, is how the chipmunks interact with Dave. Everything is chaos, but they genuinely care about him, and that relationship is what gives this movie its heart even when everything else feels like it's dated. And my favorite part about this movie personally is Jason Lee as Dave in these movies. He's always been funny to me even when I watched him as a kid. He plays the frustration perfectly without feeling mean-spirited. You can tell he cares about the chipmunks even when they're driving him insane, and that balance is what makes his performance work. And all the chipmunks' personalities, as much as they sound and look similar, are still very different and unique, which in this case would be pretty difficult to do. Alvin is reckless and impulsive, Simon is very logical and cautious, Theodore is the heart and what keeps them all together, and even though they're all high-pitched talking chipmunks, the movie does a decent job making sure each one has their own voice and role in the group. Another highlight for this movie is the music. The songs were perfect for the time that the movie was made, but to be honest they are kind of outdated now, although it is still fun to hear some callback songs. The covers they do are energetic and catchy, and if you grew up with this movie you probably still remember at least a few of them. They don't hit the same way they used to, but there's still something nostalgic about hearing them again. And I know I say this in every video, but no, not everything is perfect. So I want to talk about something that didn't work for me. Is this movie enjoyable? Yes, but in my opinion, it doesn't keep up with the current level of movies. The pacing feels outdated, the CGI looks rough by today's standards, and the humor just doesn't land the same way it used to. It's one of those movies where when you rewatch it, you can tell how much time has passed since it first came out. But the biggest thing that shows the movie's age is the CGI. The chipmunks don't look bad for 2007. Well, kinda, because that's the same year the first Transformers came out, and we all know that's some of the best CGI we've ever seen. But even with the CGI not looking the best, they don't really look real. They kind of look like some cartoon characters drop into live action footage, and compared to what we're used to now with movies like The Jungle Book or the Lion King remake, it's hard not to notice the lighting doesn't always match, the textures are kind of off, and the way they interact with physical objects sometimes looks a little like floaty. Again, this movie was fine back then, but it's really noticeable now. And some of the jokes just don't make much sense now that I'm older. A lot of the humor is built around slapstick or like pop culture references for that time, and those either didn't age well or it just felt forced. And what was funny when you were a kid doesn't always translate when you're rewatching it as an adult. And I kind of just said this, but they're really like all of the humor, or like 90% of it, is just designed to make kids laugh, which makes sense because that was the movie's target audience. But as an adult and rewatching it, a lot of it feels repetitive. The chipmunks cause chaos, Dave yells, they make up, and then it happens all over again. That formula works for kids, but on a rewatch it starts to feel predictable pretty quick. But yeah, this movie was peak when I was 7. I say this because it just doesn't live up to today's standard, but at the same time the movie is pure nostalgia. I was excited to rewatch it, and I didn't really regret rewatching it. It has the same feeling as it did when I was a kid, and sometimes that's enough. But what I appreciated most about rewatching this is that it reminded me of why I loved it in the first place. It's not too deep, it's not groundbreaking, but it's just fun. And when you're a kid, that's all that matters. Literally, kids will watch anything. The chipmunks are funny, Dave is relatable, and the music is catchy. That's the formula, and it worked. As an adult, I can see all the mistakes and how the movie isn't really good, but I can also see why my younger self was so into it, and that's kind of cool in its own way. Now I want to talk about the best moment, or what I like to call the golden moment, and that has to be when Dave becomes their guardian and officially becoming their parent. He takes them into his home, cares for them, he protects them, and openly calls them family. The movie frames it as an emotional adoption, even if they never show the literal legal process on screen. It's not this big dramatic scene, it's just a quiet realization that they've become his family. And even though the movie is goofy and over the top most of the time, the moment feels genuine. It reminds you that underneath all the chaos, there's a story about finding where you belong, and that's easily the best part about the movie. But what makes that moment work is how earned it feels. Dave didn't want the Chipmunks at first. They were a major inconvenience, a complete disruption to his life. But over time, he realizes they're not just helping his career. They're filling something he didn't know was missing. And the Chipmunks who started out just trying to survive realize they found someone who actually cares about them. It's a simple, wholesome arc, and the movie doesn't overcomplicate it. It just lets the moment land. So if you're just bored and want a movie to watch, I'll say this. It's a fun and nostalgia-filled movie, but keep in mind some of the jokes won't hit the same anymore. It's not going to blow you away, and it definitely shows its age. But if you're watching it for the memories or with like a nephew or niece who's never seen it, it would still be fun. It's a time capsule of the early 2000s family movies, for better or worse. The movie knows what it is. It's not trying to be a master. It's trying to be a lighthearted family movie with talking chipmunks and catchy songs. And honestly, all the dating aside, for what it's set up to do, it succeeded. It made the kids laugh and got people in theaters. I mean, they made 4 of them, so they had to make money somewhere, and it made parents tolerate it. So even though it doesn't hold up the same way the other childhood movies do, I can still respect what it accomplished. And my final thoughts and the overall statement of this movie is the movie isn't perfect and it shows its age, but if you grew up with it, there's still something fun about going back and watching it. Just don't expect it to hit the same way it did when you were a kid. Thank you for watching today's review. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. I'll be dropping a new video every single day this month for my 25-day Christmas movie marathon. Tomorrow's review is a big one, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. In the meantime, feel free to check out yesterday's video if you haven't already, and as always, stay curious and let's keep the conversation going.